We got you updated. This is Radio Imanzi News in English.
A very good evening. You are tuned to Radio Imanzi broadcasting from Kigali. Here is the news in English brought to you by Fiona Umuganwa. The headlines. President Paul Kagame today presided over the launch of the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Rwanda. The French Development Agency this Thursday unveiled its new country offices in Kigali. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Vincent Biruta, is in the U.S. on an official working visit. Israeli forces have killed 3 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. Now the news in detail. President Paul Kagame says in Rwanda and all over the world, there are emerging innovations to contain the COVID pandemic and mitigate its impact on livelihoods. The president made the remarks at the launch of the Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Rwanda, a collaboration between the Ministry of ICT and Innovation and the World Economic Forum, bringing together different stakeholders to accelerate global change using technologies. President Paul Kagame noted that over the years the forum has accompanied Rwanda's ambition to be a digital economy aiming at inclusive and sustainable growth.
Over the years, the forum has accompanied our country's ambition to be a digital economy aiming at inclusive and sustainable growth. The launch of the center is happening at a critical time, and we must take full advantage of it. In Rwanda and all over the world, emerging technologies have driven innovations to contain the COVID pandemic and mitigate its impact on livelihoods. This has sped up changes that were already underway. The way we live, work, and interact with each other will keep evolving as technology does. But data governance frameworks have not kept up with the fast pace of digital transformation. I therefore commend the Center for supporting the development of Rwanda's personal data protection and privacy law. And the policy will safeguard our citizens while leveraging emerging technologies for the betterment of our communities. Allow me to suggest 3 other ways in which strong partnerships such as this one can accelerate digital transformation. First, by stimulating entrepreneurship through increased investment in the right skills and capacity. Second, by helping to address the financing gaps that prevent Africa's businesses scaling up. Lastly, by working to harmonize Africa's data governance landscape and thereby fast-tracking the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Some of these partnerships have already begun, and I thank all partners for their promising initiatives. The launch of this center is enabled by investments that we as a country have been making in science and technology. I hope the center will build on this by making the fourth industrial revolution an equalizing force and contributing solutions to some of today's most pressing challenges. We are very happy to have the World Economic Forum as a partner in these crucial and other endeavors. Here, I wish to thank you for your being here and also for your kind attention.
While there are more than a dozen centers for the fourth industrial revolution in the world, today marks history for Africa since the center in Rwanda is the very first to be formally launched on the continent. Later today, President Paul Kagame received a delegation led by Liberata Mulamula, Tanzania's Minister of Foreign Affairs, who is in Rwanda as a special envoy with a message from President Samia Suluhu Hassan. The French Development Agency this Thursday unveiled its new country offices in Kigali and signed a number of agreements with some of Rwanda's main development stakeholders. This highlights the agency's contribution to the deepening of the relationship between France and Rwanda, following mutual commitments made by Rwandan President Paul Kagame and French President Emmanuel Macron to reinforce the cooperation between the two countries in a wide range of sectors. Antoine Afay, the French ambassador to Rwanda, says Rwanda is a country with great big ambitions.
Is that what is rewarding, I think, for operators here is that we are in a country with a small territory, but with very big ambitions. And for people, who knew what was Kigali before 1994, and it was like a big village, it was not an impressive capital. And when you come back, 30 years later, you are just amazed, by all the achievements which have been done. Not only in Kigali, but also in some secondary cities, like Musanze, where we will work on this hospital, like Butare, like Wamagana, like Gisenyi also, with its sister city on the other side of the border, Goma. And Rwanda obviously has many ambitions in many fields. You want to become a regional hub in transport. You want to become a financial center. You are already a capital for international conferences. You want to become also as this health sector which is developing. Rémi Rio spoke about it. And in sports also. There was the Basketball Africa League, which was also supported by AFD, which is one of the big achievements of the CEO, together with NBA, so you can imagine a partnership between AFD and NBA. And in all this field, you have the right amenities, in Kigali, to do things, to produce things, to organize big events.
The Minister of State in charge of economic planning, Claudine Uwela, commended the French Development Agency for their commitment to teach French in schools in Rwanda.
Monsieur Rémi, Chief Executive Officer, Agence Française de Développement, Your Excellency Ambassador Antoine Afray, Ambassador of France to Rwanda. On behalf of the government of Rwanda and the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, I would like to say that it's really a great pleasure for all of us just to be part of this official launch of this of the new office of the Agence Française de Développement. As you highlighted, we can say that the bilateral relations between Rwanda and France has been recently revitalized. And this was really demonstrated by the visit of the head of states on both parts recently, and it has also been followed by discussions between different stakeholders. We have business delegations on the two sides, and that's really showing the increasing engagement between the two countries. So we really thank you very much for this great support and commitment. Right now we've been discussing just the commitment so far when it comes to the project that are already funded by the Agence Française de Développement in both different sectors, including health, education, financial sector development, as they highlighted that. And we also tackle other new priority for Rwanda. And it's really very much interesting just to hear from them that they are also much interested just to foster regional integration through support to regional projects as they understood. Just they highlighted this receipt-free project, and we mentioned that discussions are ongoing, and when it comes to Rwanda, we just will be having further discussion to see what can be done in terms of making this project progressing very well. We thank very much the Agence Française de Développement for also the commitment when it comes to the teaching of French language in schools in Rwanda. This really a great commitment, and it's a high priority for Rwanda as well. And when it comes to the technical expertise and the capacity building they're providing, and that within this program, this is something that we really appreciate a lot. So for future cooperation, as you know, the government of Rwanda is implementing its national strategy for transformation. That goes between 2017 and 2024. We've been discussing that all areas and priority will go through, and within this national strategy for transformation, as we aim just to be a middle-income country by 2035, and a high-income country by 2050. And of course, we've been discussing all the challenges we experienced through this pandemic, and that really Rwanda tackled in a strategic way by implementing the economic recovery plan. And there's really a good news that Agence Française de Développement is really also working towards this direction, just supporting and contributing significantly just to implementing priority under the economic recovery plan. So we salute this collaboration, and it's a very good beginning, and I can say this renewal of relationship, both political and economically, is really something both countries really will gain.
Rémi Rioux, the CEO of the French Development Agency, said the agency will be allocating 200 million euros to Rwanda in the next 2 years. Officials from the Rwanda Forensic Laboratory spoke with the media today about the laboratory's accomplishments since its inception in 2018. Over the past 4 years, the Rwanda Forensics Lab has received more than 25,000 cases, including 14,600 cases for sexual assault injuries, 4,500 for DNA testing, 723 for drug testing, 1,587 for the measurement of toxicity and the amount of alcohol in blood, 6 for sound testing, 26 for gun and ammunition testing services, and 13 for microbiohazards. Charles Karangwa, the Director General of Rwanda Forensic Laboratory, talks about how each year's plan and budget are allocated.
Actually, at the RFA we have, each year, we have a plan and a budget allocated to this plan to train our client stakeholders, which are practitioners, meaning that we are dealing with the judge, prosecutor, and medical doctor. All of them, they are fully involved in crime management. So first, let us start by medical doctors, for instance. Medical doctors at the clinics, when you don't collect appropriately the sample will be never produce good result. Let's say abortion. Abortion for a fetus of like 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It's a small part. Meaning that if practitioners or medical doctors cannot correct appropriately this sample, the greatest sample, the fetus, and correct all materials in the placenta, meaning that we lose our focus. Sometimes it happens. in the previous time, where we continue to detect the DNA for mom, not the fetus. It happened. That's why in our plan and the budget, we make a particular emphasis on training them, make sure they are correcting appropriate signs. This is one. Judge, prosecutor, and so. They have to understand how the forensic science is important. We have a plan. In June, for instance, we'll be invited to follow the training of those categories of our practitioners to look at how they should understand the extent of forensic science. This is in our plan, and each year we have plan. In June, we have the last one, and we have for this year, with the support of Netherlands Forensic Institute. It will happen. New services, the last one. The last one, we talk about new services, now we are working on it. There is forensic anthropology to establish a relationship between the rest of dead bodies and their families. So we are working closely with the Argentina Forensic Institute, and we are the collaboration and bank very soon will be signing an MOU with between two ministries of foreign affairs and the international cooperation. And for service like histopathology, this is a service that we bring in.
Moving on ahead, following his visit to Washington, D.C., Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Vincent Biruta, participated in a discussion at the Atlantic Council in Washington, D.C. The discussion included exchanges on the relations between Rwanda and the U.S., its partnership with international financial institutions, Rwanda's role in the Great Lakes, and at the continental level. Minister Biruta talked about the goals of his visit to Washington and the expectations from the Biden administration.
Let me say that we are here, we are visiting Washington, D.C. To strengthen the partnership existing between the USA and Rwanda. We are working with the USA in many sectors, including defense and security, climate change, health, education, and many others. So we are here to engage with the administration to see how we can take that partnership further. You know that Rwanda is a player in many areas on the continent. You have mentioned security. We are contributing to peacekeeping operations. We are present in South Sudan. We are present in Central African Republic. We are present in Mozambique. And we are here to discuss about how the United States could contribute to the efforts Rwanda is putting in bringing security back to these various areas, among others. But you have also received support from the government of the USA to fight COVID-19. You have received vaccines, you have received ventilators from the US government, and today we are talking about manufacturing of vaccines, and we are ready to partner with the US government to see how we can benefit from technology transfer so that Rwanda and the African continent could be a player in the fight against pandemics, including COVID-19, but other pandemics which could arise in the future.
When asked about the assessment of economic consequences of the Russia invasion of Ukraine on Rwanda, Dr. Biruta had this to say.
Russia and Ukraine are players in the world economy, and as far as Rwanda is concerned, we think that we be affected by the prices of oil, of course, and we be eventually affected by the prices of and the availability of fertilizers which we used to import from Ukraine. The other maybe element is related to food, the food itself, wheat. We used to import 64% of our wheat from Ukraine, and we are likely to to have shortage. We are looking at alternative sources where we can have wheat from, and we believe that we'll be affected, but for example, for wheat is not an important element of the food system in Rwanda, and we can easily find alternatives. But the first direction is to consider alternative sources of oil, of wheat, of fertilizers, and we have put in place a team under the Prime Minister which is working on these alternatives while also monitoring the situation around the world. And we believe that we'll be able to have mitigation measures to prevent our population to be highly affected by war and the sanctions which are in place in relation to the situation in Ukraine.
Residents of the Gicumbi district's Nyamiyaga sector, as well as patients, have criticized the provision of services at the Nyamiyaga Health Center. Mumolize Pascaline, the interim director of Nyamiyaga Health Center, said they are providing poor services due to a shortage of nurses and that they have never ceased writing to authorities requesting assistance but no avail. The Ministry of Health says in collaboration with Gicumbi District Administration is looking for ways to increase the number of nurses with the help of donors. We shall continue with some items of international news after the advertisement.
Are you looking for the best language interpreting services for your next meeting, training workshop, or forum, in person or remotely? Look no further. Gemini Multimedia Limited offers high-quality and professional interpreting and document translation services in various fields of expertise. Based on the International Association of Conference Interpreters, AIC, and with a team of professionals with more than 10 years of experience in the field, you can rely on us for a smooth running of your next event. Locate Gemini Multimedia Limited on KG 14 Avenue 258 between Kagugu Health Center and Fawe Girls School. You can also call us on 0790-719-909 or visit www.geminimultimedia.org. Gemini Multimedia Limited. Speak clearly. Listen reliably.
Some items of international news on Radio Imanzi.
Welcome back. Moving on ahead with international news, Kenya's Supreme Court on Thursday dismissed the plans proposed by President Uhuru Kenyatta to amend the Constitution through the Building Bridges Initiative, BBI. In a majority decision of 5 against 2, the top court judges agreed that the BBI bill, which sought to amend the supreme law through a popular initiative, was unconstitutional. The judges agreed that President Kenyatta was the promoter of the initiative, yet the Constitution does not grant him the powers to amend the laws through a popular initiative. Hundreds of Ethiopians arrived back in Addis Ababa, the first contingent of some 100,000 nationals to be repatriated from Saudi Arabia over the coming months. Around 900 returnees, including many mothers with young children, landed at Addis Ababa International Airport throughout the day on Wednesday. It is estimated that about 750,000 Ethiopians currently reside in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, with about 450,000 likely to have traveled to the country through irregular means and will need help to return home. Tunisia's President Kais Saied dissolved the country's parliament and said MPs would be prosecuted, extending an 8-month power grab and intensifying the country's political crisis. He made the announcement at a meeting of the National Security Council hours after parliamentarians held a plenary session online and voted through a bill against exceptional measures taken by Saied last year. Qatar now has its own Olympic and sports museum showcasing the evolution and history of sport and the Olympic movement. One of the curators, Victoria Cosgrove, explains that the 17,000 objects in the collection are presented in a way that is respectful, honoring and inspiring. The museum also serves to share the story of Qatari athletes and their accomplishments, something the country was lacking according to former boat racer Sheikh Hassan bin Jabari Al Thani. The museum's director Abdullah Amula says maybe they don't have an old history, but they are very proud of what their people have achieved. The UN World Food Programme says Afghanistan is facing a tsunami of hunger, with it on the verge of economic collapse. Dire economic situation sees children dying of starvation as millions of Afghans struggle to put food on their tables. 23 million Afghans are facing starvation in what has become a hunger crisis of unparalleled proportions, according to Dr. Ramiz Arabarov, Deputy Special Representative of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Israeli forces have killed 3 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank, including one suspected of carrying out a stabbing attack. Maina Sanad Abu, 17, and Yazid al-Sadi, 23, were shot dead during an Israeli army raid on Jenin on Thursday, the Palestinian Health Ministry said. The killings come amid heightened tensions over the past 2 weeks in Israel and the occupied West Bank ahead of the holy month of Ramadan. Hungarians are set to go to the polls on April 3rd that will see 199 MPs elected to the National Assembly for 4-year terms. Under the Hungarian election system, 106 single-mandate constituents are decided by first-past-the-post voting. The remaining 93 MPs will be elected from a single nationwide constituency, mostly by proportional representation. The Russian president's decision to enforce ruble payments has boosted the Russian currency, which fell to a historic lows after the February 24th invasion. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Thursday that he had signed a decree saying foreign buyers must pay in rubles for Russian gas from April 1st, and contracts would be halted if these payments were not made. A convoy of buses headed to Mariupol on Thursday in another attempt to evacuate people from the besieged port city, while Russia pressed its attacks in several parts of Ukraine ahead of a planned new round of talks aimed at ending the fighting. After the Russian military agreed to a limited ceasefire in the area, the Red Cross said its teams were traveling to Mariupol with relief and medical supplies and hoped to help pull civilians out of the beleaguered city on Friday.
Economic news is a regular feature on Radio Imanzi.
The Rwanda Stock Exchange Market Report. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 466,500 Rwandan francs from 3,700 shares traded in 4 days on the equities market, while the fixed income market remained quiet. Bank of Kigali counter closed at 249 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 249,000 Rwandan francs from 1,000 shares traded in 1 deal. I&M Bank counter closed at 45 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 67,500 Rwandan francs from 1,500 shares traded in 1 deal. Bradwa closed the counter at 125 Rwandan francs. The trading session recorded a total turnover of 150,000 Rwandan francs from 1,200 shares traded in 2 deals. Simerwa closed the counter at 120 Rwandan francs, MTN Rwanda at 180 Rwandan francs, Equity Bank at 440 Rwandan francs, Kenya Commercial Bank at 370 Rwandan francs, National Media Group at 1,200 Rwandan francs, Uchuri Supermarket at 104 Rwandan francs, and RH Buffalo closed the counter at 526 Rwandan francs as the market closed. The currency market review of today. The Kenyan shilling buy price was 8.7 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 8.9 Rwandan francs. Tanzanian shilling buy price was 0.43 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.44 Rwandan francs. Ugandan shilling buy price was 0.28 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.286 Rwandan francs. Burundian franc buying price was 0.49 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 0.5 Rwandan francs. The US dollar buying price was 1,008 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,028 Rwandan francs. The British pound buying price was 1,322 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,349 Rwandan francs. The euro buying price was 1,125 Rwandan francs and the selling price was 1,148 Rwandan francs. With that, we come to the end of tonight's edition.